हेलो फ्रेंड्स, सत श्री अकाल, अताप, नमस्ते, वेलकम बैक टू अवर चैनल इलाही रिएक्शन। आज हम अपने चैनल पर लेकर आए हैं बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग वीडियो रिएक्शन जिसमें हम रिएक्ट करने वाले हैं। पाकिस्तान इज गेटिंग अ स्टेल्थ फाइटर इन 2026 एंड इट्स नॉट अमेरिकन। और ये बात तो बिल्कुल सच है, ये अमेरिकन नहीं है और होना भी नहीं चाहिए, क्योंकि F-35 के जो हाल हुए, जो इनका स्टेल्थ एयरक्राफ्ट की जो इतनी वो बनी हुई थी ना कि एक इमेज इतनी ज्यादा हाइप थी, बट उसने कुछ नहीं करके दिखा पाया वो, मतलब अभी जब पीछे ये वॉर हुई है। इनको मिलने वाला है J-35, आई थिंक चाइना के साथ डील करी हुई है इन्होंने पाकिस्तान ने। लेट्स सी वो कैसा परफॉर्म करता है और आज की वीडियो में उसके बारे में क्या खास जानने को मिलता है, फिर इसके बारे में बात करेंगे।
The J-35 is China's latest fifth generation fighter. We'll talk about fifth generation, what that means here in a minute. But now they are ramping up the timeline to deliver J-35As to Pakistan. And that timeline is looking like it's going to be by the end of this year. So that acceleration has been ramped up. We'll talk about the meaning of that. But the J-35, again, is China's latest fifth generation stealth fighter. And it is their main export variant, or the one they are pitching as an export variant. So we're going to look at that. Also, the KJ-500. This is their airborne early warning control platform. Kind of like every time I say it looks like one of our planes, people get really touchy about that. But the J-35 also has some unique characteristics that look similar if we look around as well, but neither here nor there. Now, part of this package as well is the HQ-19 ballistic missile defense system. This also comes from China. And remember, China and Pakistan have a joint venture with the JF-17, so they're kind of already integrated when it comes to building a fighter jet together. So Pakistan would be the first buyer of this Chinese fifth generation jet if it all does come true. So first, let's talk about fifth generation. Just a quick highlight. When we say that term, I'll use it synonymously today, but that's really a marketing term. And some big takeaways from fifth generation would be low observable sensor fusion, potentially super cruise, and some other things. That term was really coined in order to kind of make a case and make it easy to justify buying F-22s and F-35s over buying an F-16 or F-18, which are still being produced to this day. So when we say fifth generation, I think most people, their mind immediately goes to stealth fighter. Now, this J-35, this is a twin engine multi-role fighter. That's what it's being marketing as, and it's being marketed as a fifth generation fighter. Your term for fifth generation fighter, their term for fifth generation fighter, it might vary slightly. But again, I think, the big piece is this does look like it has some low observable characteristics. How low observable it is, how stealthy it is, we don't know that. You don't know that. I don't know that. Probably will never know that outside of a classified environment. But again, we look at it, it does look like it has some of those low observable characteristics. But when it comes into a lot of the beeps and squeaks, the emissions, all those things are factors, and we just don't know what that'll be like. We can make some assumptions that we would expect to have sensor fusion integrated into this J-35, meaning that it's absorbing a lot of information. It's helping the pilot process that information by presenting it in a clean, common sense type fashion, making them more lethal and more survivable in contested environments. Now, the J-35 hails back to the FC-31 program, which was first unveiled in 2012. FC-31 was a competitor to the J-20. The J-20, the Shindog Aircraft Corporation that produces that, won the contract, and now that's in mass production. They've produced hundreds of fighters. We've seen the J-20 flying around in air shows. The J-20 won out, but the J-35 has kind of survived / been reborn over the years. Two variants of the J-35 exist, the naval variant and the Air Force variant. That A variant is the land-based one, the Air Force variant, to keep it simple in my mind. That's the one that Pakistan is looking at purchasing. Now, both the naval and the land variant entered service on September 3rd, 2025. Yes. I would imagine it's much like our programs, that when the J-35s enter service, it's probably not a full up round. Like the F-35 is still going through major block upgrades, but a pretty capable jet off the assembly line. This is relatively symbolic to get both those out there. By China producing the J-35 and entering it into service, it joined the ranks of only the United States of having two types of fifth generation stealth aircraft that are in production simultaneously. So not an insignificant feat at all. The J-35 is being marketed as an export product. This is, I think, a significant step for China. We'll talk about why that is here in just a second. The price tag on this varies anywhere from $50 million to $100 million. Again, if we just look around and use a little bit of common sense, probably land somewhere in the middle. There are a lot of factors that go into it. What's not accounted in this I don't believe, is the R&D piece of it. Yeah, you can save some money when it comes to research and development if you're able to take examples from other people, but I'll leave it at that. You can make your own assessment or just look at the news. All those pieces that go into designing, planning, engineering, the research and design portion of it,
Everything
right? That
is
is a
excellent.
significant piece of the cost. And depending on how you're accounting for it, gets divvied up in the price per unit. Obviously, you buy more units, more planes, then that price, the denominator is larger and that number gets smaller. Now, maybe that's included, maybe not. I don't think we will really know that. And that's fine. So nonetheless, doesn't really matter because when the customer is buying it, they're looking at the final price and they don't really care how much it costs, right? Now, Pakistan's prime minister announced this deal and it's going to be for 40 J-35s as well as the KJ-500 AWACS, and an airborne early warning control, the HQ-19 missile defense. And in that is a $3.7 billion loan repayment deferral. Now, this is the piece I think is worth watching. Pakistan has said they expect to start receiving these jets in the next couple months.
Yes.
That, I think, is going to be a telltale sign of the health of this program. We don't know much about the J-35. Unlike U.S. defense contractors, or I guess any kind of Western defense contractors, publicly traded companies, you're typically seeing big announcements of purchases from other countries, production rates. You have a little bit more insight of like the health and status of that company and what their product is doing. This, though, on the delivery front, if Pakistan is expected to get these in the next couple months and they actually get them, that's a huge stepping stone for the Chinese military export program. We'd call that foreign military sales in the United States. So we can do that for Chinese. Their FMS, that's pretty stout. Now, I would imagine that the J-35 would be equipped potentially with the PL-17 air-to-air missile. Now, this is one of China's newest, latest
the PL-17
air-to-air
missile
missiles.
hogi.
We don't know a whole bunch about the statuses. What I will say, if we jump back to June of 2025, Operation Sindoor, the conflict between India and Pakistan. The Pakistanis took out numerous Indian jets upwards of 125 nautical miles or 200 kilometers with the PL-15. This should have been the export variant of the PL-15, so the PL-15E Echo. We don't know for sure. Maybe that was a full up round, a full real PL-15 from China that was able to accomplish these really long beyond visual range shots, BVR shots. When we talk about the air-to-air engagement, that's significant from an air-to-air standpoint. 125 miles, 200 kilometers. Now buckle up, a PL-17, they're saying upwards of 400 kilometers or 250 miles almost. That's a long way away. Now, there are differences between obviously what is said and makes it to the internet and when it comes to the actual production. We have seen China produce numerous jets and unveil them over the last 9 months. That is impressive. There is no doubt about that. Producing a prototype, significant. But there is a long way from producing a prototype and even flying that prototype, like the J-36 or the J-50,
Both are
and then
different.
entering full-scale production. They figured it out with the J-20 as they're in full-scale production. So there's a lot of learning and there's a lot of knowledge that is built in there. So the ability to iterate and do that again, I would expect that to only accelerate. But nonetheless, there's still a lot of range when it comes to coming up with a new shiny toy and actually making it at scale. Well, the Chinese are pretty good at producing
New
things at
shiny
scale.
toy.
I will give them that. So Pakistan is going to
China के
replace their
production पे
aging
doubt
fleet
तो
of
होता है सबको एक
F-16s
बार.
and Mirages with these new J-35s. Now, I think that's a big step for Pakistan. When we talk about, and if we jump back to Operation Sindoor between the Indians and the Pakistanis, my assumption, my belief, there was probably some issues on the Indian
वही
side
लग रहा
of
है
the
ना
house
जैसे
when it comes to
अमेरिका का
having different
F-35
weapon
का
systems
वैसा
made
ही
by
हाल
different
ना हो
countries.
कि
They're
सिर्फ
flying
सुन
Russian
रहे हैं उसके बारे
aircraft,
में
French
अच्छा अच्छा
aircraft. Data link might not be interoperable between all these different platforms. So not only do you have an ergonomic issue, but you just have an interoperability issue.
Oh
Now,
my
China
God.
and Pakistan, again, they have that joint venture
तो
between the
साफ ही कह रहे हैं
JF-17. So
इंडिया
this
के
is
पास
like
कोई
one further
कैपेबिलिटी ही
step
नहीं है.
as Pakistan modernizes or swaps out their military hardware, going towards an indigenous slash just one national supplier such as China, right? All this stuff should be interoperable and work much more seamlessly together. Now, India, they were going to get the F-35, or they're in talks of getting the F-35, and they turned it down. A lot of tensions with tariffs, as well as they had some concerns on not having the control they wanted over the program when it came to, hey, maybe down the road, we want to be able to adjust some software or change some things out. That wasn't part of the deal. So they have elected to produce their own indigenous stealth fighter. Now, this is the AMCA, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. Again, all indigenously produced inside India. The gotcha here is it's not supposed to be ready until 2030 with the first prototype not flying here for at least probably another year. So they have a long ways to go before that is really a viable answer. And if China is able to deliver the J-35 on timeline in the next couple of months, that definitely tips the scale when we talk about the regional power between India and Pakistan, I would say towards Pakistan's favor. So the J-35 would be China's first fifth generation export variant. This is a significant milestone for Beijing when we come to the foreign military sales aspect of it. This is a significant milestone when we talk about aircraft production alone. But this starts to pivot Beijing into more of a powerful figure across the globe and various militaries. We have seen them reach out economically across the globe, specifically in Africa, into Europe, etc. Now, this is supposed to be a no strings attached agreement. Buy the jets, you're good to go. I'm a little bit of skeptic when it comes to that because we have seen how China operates when it comes to economic development in countries. So I think it's
बात तो
fair to
सही
say
है.
that there are definitely some strings attached to this. At a minimum, you need the Chinese to support the production, the back end side of the J-35, the KJ-500, or their HQ-19. Otherwise, these systems just kind of fall by the wayside, or you have to indigenously produce the capability to support them yourselves, which is not impossible, but it is a significant lift. What we don't know about the J-35 is really a lot, right? It's a classified program from the Chinese. We're going to make some assumptions that, again, based on some of the design characteristics, if this thing has this low observable capability, again, I think it's also a fair assumption to make that when it comes to the sensors, they are going to fuse together, making that pilot more lethal, making that pilot more survivable in contested environments, presenting them with information that helps them be a more efficient fighter pilot when it comes down to operating the J-35. What you also might see, again, based on this timeline, if it in fact does happen this fast, you can make the assumption that this is a pretty healthy program or has the potential to be a pretty healthy program. And I would think that Beijing would have a great marketing tool, maybe go towards some of these countries that weren't necessarily going to be included in the F-35 purchase, or they were on the fringes that might tip the scales towards purchasing the J-35 over the F-35. Again, those are all TBD and those are just my thoughts. I'd be curious to get your thoughts.
ओ माय गॉड, आज की वीडियो के अंदर मुझे ये लग रहा था यार इनकी ऑब्जर्वेशन क्या मस्त थी, एक एक चीज के बारे में इन्होंने बताया. और सबसे बड़ी बात मुझे ये लग रही थी कि J-35 जैसा हमें दिखाया जा रहा है कि मतलब इसके अंदर ऐसा होगा, इसके ये फीचर्स होंगे, ये स्टेल्थ एयरक्राफ्ट होगा. वही बात है, प्रोडक्शन और जब वो एयर में होगा वो चीजें बहुत डिफरेंट होती हैं यार. मतलब ऐसा ना हो कि F-35 जैसा रिजल्ट इसका भी निकल के आ रहा हो. तो मुझे तो आज की वीडियो बहुत नॉलेजेबल लगी.
ये वाकई में बात बिल्कुल करेक्ट है. आई थिंक चाइना की प्रोडक्शन को लेकर ना हर कोई ये बात बोलता है. अगर आप एक किसी हालांकि ये इन्होंने एक तरीके के पूरा फॉरेनर चैनल था, तो उन्होंने जिस तरीके से हर एक चीज को डिस्क्राइब किया कि भाई किसी चीज को परचेज करना और उस प्लानिंग को एग्जीक्यूट करने में बहुत फर्क है. चाइना की प्रोडक्शन लेवल पर हम जानते हैं कि चाइना टेक्नोलॉजी के मामले में इस टाइम बहुत आगे जा चुका है, लेकिन कुछ चीजों में अभी भी ऐसा डाउट लगता है कि चाइना की कुछ चीजें जो है ना वो एकदम चलता पुर्जा ही होती है कि बस वो चले तो चले, नहीं चले तो वो नहीं चलती हैं. सो आई थिंक एयरक्राफ्ट के मामले में कहीं ये चीज सही साबित ना हो जाए या कुछ भी और भी मसले हो सकते हैं. बाकी आई थिंक जो स्टेल्थ एयरक्राफ्ट की पावर के बारे में हमने जाना है, जो हमने J-35 के बारे में जाना है, वो वाकई में तारीफे काबिल है. उनके जो फीचर्स है वो वाकई में काफी ज्यादा एडवांस है. सो लेट्स सी कि इस और ऐसी और टॉपिक पर हम कौन कौन सी वीडियोस आपके लिए लेकर आएंगे. आप बने रहिएगा हमारे साथ इसी तरीके से चैनल पर, और इस वीडियो को लाइक और शेयर करना, चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करना मत भूलिएगा.
और हम मिलेंगे एक नई वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए ओके बाय.